Welcome to the Tea Show.
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 And this is To Tea Together. Welcome to the Tea Show.
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 And this is To Tea Together.
Welcome to Tea Together. Today we have a very special guest, Alex Bochel, on our series Artisan Tea. Alex Bochel is EDM and pop artist, producer, audio engineer, music promoter, and DJ. And today we want to really focus on and talk a lot about Alex's experience living out of a car in 2019. So welcome to the show, Alex.
Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here and share a cup of tea with you.
Absolutely. So we've decided to brew some green tea today.
Yes, indeed.
I've got mine. I'm not sure what type of green tea do you have?
I don't know much about type. The brand is Benner Tea Company. It's just a fairly general green tea. Got it from my mom when I went and visited her. She gave me a huge pack of it. But how about yours?
So let me show you. I'm not sure. Can you see it?
Oh yes, that is so cool.
So this is the dry leaves. I didn't brew it before we started. So because I really wanted to show you the dry leaf. So these are like the single leaf. It's called Taipin Houkui or monkey tea. And they're like single buds or the single
That's amazing.
leaf. Yeah, they're like paper thin.
Where do you get something like that?
It was actually a gift from my neighbor.
Oh
Yeah. So I'm gonna brew it right now. So usually, I have like a whole setup with like the Gongfu cha style, but with green teas usually the traditional way of brewing them is actually just putting the leaves into your cup or mug, and then they actually call it the grandpa brewing style because traditionally also in like Asia and China, a lot of you will see a lot of like older generation like grandpas and like grandmas drinking their tea just all at the bottom and just put the leaves in their mug and cup.
That's amazing. You don't use like a strainer or anything with it?
No strainer, so you just drink it directly. So I just poured the water in and sorry.
No worries.
All right, you just like pour the water in, then
Oh wow, it's beautiful.
yeah, it's like they call it like the phoenix dancing or something like that. So you could see the leaves process and like how it kind of unfolds, not really unfold, but wilt.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so I'll just let it steep for a few minutes and then I'll drink it and let you know how it tastes.
I'm really curious to see how it tastes because I've never had green tea that way. It's only ever been through the packets the tea bags that I put in my cup and pour hot water over. So I don't know what I'm missing out on yet.
Well, one of our goals with the podcast is obviously, connecting people together, but especially through tea and the introduction of, single leaf, like loose leaf tea, because, I feel like in the Western societies and Western world, a lot of us are only introduced and are presented with, tea bags and the tea that we can find in supermarkets. But the world of tea extends way beyond that. It's like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of loose leaf teas. Most of them don't have any caffeine in them, and I love just a tiny bit of caffeine, like for mid-afternoon, an amount that won't like keep me up at night.
That's good.
But then I'll have the herbal tea or loose leaf tea later on. But I do really love that, and I also really love the blooming tea, one that just like opens up.
Oh, the flower tea.
The water. I have like 4 of those left. And I was considering using one of those for this podcast, but I was like, I will enjoy this green tea more. So I'll go with that.
Yeah. Good choice. Yeah. Yeah, man, it's awesome to have you on the show. So let's talk about, I'm really curious about like what made you decide to, to pursue that year of just living out of your car, and I really want to hear about your experiences.
Absolutely. So it goes back to when I was in college, and I was in an organization called SIGEP, and it was a new organization the year that I joined. And the whole purpose behind it was self-development in professional health and pretty much like a well-balanced self-development. And it helped me gain so much confidence in myself, mostly socially and leadership-wise, because it gave me so many opportunities to meet new people, to talk to them, to learn about their motivations, and then to cultivate an organization around it. And it was so hard to do. I mean, it fell apart so many times. We had so many bad people in the organization that we had to remove, and then we saw half the organization just quit at one point my junior year. And through all of that, one of the people that was helping me the most was someone from the national organization who did what I did my last year when I traveled, but he was the traveling person that helped me. And he basically just coached me through everything. And he was inspirational, and he was so well read, and he was really smart and knew how to interact with people so well. And it just blew my mind. And so he recruited me to be that for a year after I graduated. And so it was a full-time job offer. It only would last a year. It's only a one-year position because living out of your car isn't super sustainable, as you may guess. And I took that job offer my junior year. So senior year was great because I was like, I have a job offer already. I don't have to worry about that. But that's why I did it in the first place. And over the summer, once the job actually started, we did 2.5 months of just learning about sales and consulting and project management and all of these high level, but also really applicable skills. And then we just got in our cars, all 12 of us, and we drove off to different parts of the country and started traveling. And it's so hard to describe it in terms that someone who hasn't done it can really understand. But it's exhausting because just so much stimulus all the time is difficult, and all of these different hardships that no one that around you can help you with because you don't know anyone around you, and you're going to new places and you don't sleep in the same bed very often. It's always somewhere new. I had a Planet Fitness membership, and so I would like shower at Planet Fitnesses. I'd sometimes have to drive like 2 hours to get to one because it wasn't anywhere close to the city I was staying in. But with those other people that were doing it, we formed an incredibly close bond because we were the only ones that understood what it was like to do that job. But it was so rewarding, and I got to see. My region was the Northeast. And so I'd never been up into New England before. So I got to see like all of Vermont in the winter, in Maine, and like Boston and Niagara Falls and New York City. And it was just like incredible. I mean, the perfect kind of traveling that could inspire art.
Yeah, I bet. Like, so just to clarify, it was the job requirement was that you had to spend that duration living out of the car because there was so much traveling.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. And so we all knew it going into it, and we were crazy enough to say sure.
Yeah, because like I'm just thinking like you're right. Like for someone who hasn't experienced it, it's very hard to imagine what it's like. Like I'm thinking like from the small stuff like showering, sleeping, all the way to the big stuff, like how that entire experience, going through different struggles and challenges, how that eventually evolved into, contributing to your creativity and also your music career.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Damn.
Yeah. So, when you mentioned like the small things, it just occurred to me one of the funnier small things that happened. Like it was so cold up in Vermont that I'd go outside to grab my food out of my car, and like my canned chicken would be totally frozen, or my laundry detergent would just be frozen solid. I was like, what do I do? Like,
Yeah.
I can't use my toothpaste. I can't even eat this.
Mm-hmm.
What the heck?
That's great. Yeah. So like going off that, like, from the small struggles to big struggles. So what were some of the challenges that you went through, and like, how did you overcome it?
I'll start with the small stuff, because the small
Mhm.
stuff it's more humorous.
Right.
So everything from just stuff in my car being frozen to having to drive like 15 hours from the northern point of Maine all the way down to western New York was insane.
Mhm.
Things like I already mentioned, running water. Having a faucet is amazing. Having a shower where I live is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
There would be times when I was supposed to stay with someone in particular, but they forgot, or they like decided to go out of town that day. And so I would just sit in my car and like call people, just like make 15 calls to different people in my contacts that might be in the area that can give me a place to stay. And then I'd end up like crashing in a dorm room on some guy's couch. And it's just so strange. All of the little weird things that happen. But when it comes to the big struggles, it was so hard to be so far away from everyone
Mm.
that I knew, because I didn't know pretty much anyone in the Northeast.
Yeah.
And it was this perfect storm of not having anyone that I felt like I could rely on or relate to, and having a lot of work to do, because the job it required a lot of like work. And then on top of that, there's lack of sleep from not having a consistent bed. And there's, I don't know how, I dive into like sleep science a lot. And when you sleep in a new place, your brain only goes half asleep, because it's trying to keep you alert in case there's danger in the area. And so if I was in a new place every few nights, it's like I wasn't even sleeping. I was like half sleeping.
Wow.
And so all that together just, it could make me feel super numb and just like zone out from the entire world. Within my first month of being on the road, I had one of the other guys from the organization fly in to Syracuse, New York, where I was, because he had to visit that school anyways for a different reason. But like when I got to him, I was like crying, like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. I'm absolutely miserable. And there's like no one here. And I clung to him like a needy girlfriend. And he was like, Alex, you have to control your schedule. You need to put things on your calendar that are going to help you like recover and process and just think through everything. And it didn't get that bad at any other point in the year. It got frustrating and lonely, but I really crashed and burned pretty fast due to the loneliness and workload and just exhaustion.
So was it initial? So you said a month in, and that you had that crash, and at the end, did you find a flow with it, and it became more like a routine and part of your lifestyle?
Yes. By the time January rolled around, so I was out there starting in August. Once I got to January, it was like, that's just how I lived. And I knew where all the Planet Fitnesses were. And when I went to a city, I knew which person I was going to stay with, and I knew what their habits were and where I could find like a meal. And it just became like a normal like thing. Like I just got used to waking up and driving hours to a new location, and I got used to the freezing cold, and I just found ways to work around it. And it at that point it became so fun, because I got to see all of these amazing places and experience them. And as I got better at my job, I knew what was important and what wasn't important, and I could just focus on the important things, and then find time for myself to explore or to meet people or to see people that I had grown close with that year.
Right. Wait, so quick question real quick. How long were you staying at each of these places?
At one point I stayed somewhere for a week and a half. That was the longest.
Wow.
But it was generally 2 to 3 days.
So you get to a place, new place, crash on their couch, and like 2 nights, whatever, and you're out.
Yep. And there are some places like, uh, Potsdam, New York.
No.
It's basically Canada, but it's so cold in Potsdam, and it's a tiny, tiny town with absolutely nothing in it. The school there, it's Clarkson University. It's really gray and just kind of depressing. And I had to drive through the Adirondack Mountains to get there, which is a huge park with massive mountains, and the roads are so tiny and winding. And so I drove like 8 hours to get there. I did everything I needed to do within like 5-6 hours, and I just drove like another 8 hours back. I was like, I'm not even gonna sleep here. I need to get back further south to somewhere that's more familiar.
Holy crap. Wow. So a lot of driving.
Tons. I put like 40,000 miles on my car.
What like all throughout this driving, you spend so much time on the road, like how did you pass your time, in your own thoughts? Like what did you think about, while you're on the road? Because you couldn't really do anything else.
If I was thinking, why am I doing this? This
Yeah.
is insane. And it just seems like it's it seems like it's fake. Like what I'm doing is fake. It seems like a fantasy world.
Yeah.
And so I didn't spend that much time just like thinking about that, because if I did, I'd drive myself crazy. But I thought a lot about my family, and I thought a lot about my grandpa had passed away that summer. And so I just spent a lot of time thinking about him and what he meant to me, and thinking about where he came from, because he emigrated to the United States from Scotland, and he grew up, him and his siblings had to work like on fishing boats and all this stuff to pay to keep their mom alive and well. And then when she passed away, he moved to America and became a carpenter and just kind of like clawed his way up. And then my parents were able to build on top of that. And so I just spent a lot of time thinking about how grateful I was for him. And it was just a random thing, because I wasn't super close with him, but for some reason being on the road just brought that out of me. When I wasn't thinking, it was sometimes music, but mostly I would just queue up like 20 YouTube videos and just listen to the audio.
What kind of YouTube videos?
A lot of music ones, like music marketing. I feel like I know every single music marketing thing that exists on the internet because of how many I listen to. So I don't even pay attention to those anymore. But I also listen to just like speeches and some like self-help stuff.
Right.
I like to listen to like diet and exercise experts talk about different
wide range of stuff.
Exercise. Yeah, a lot of different stuff. Anything that could keep me entertained on a 15-hour drive.
So you started doing your music stuff, producing songs, EDMs and music, senior year of high school, which is also senior year of university, college, which is just around the time that you were beginning this adventure of your job. While you were doing all of this, how did you find time to either, to brainstorm and create your music, and also how did creativity come, how did you find creativity in all of this?
The biggest thing, and this is kind of counter what a lot of creative people tend to like to do, but I would always schedule 1 hour every single morning to be creative. And that gets a bad rap because people like to let creativity hit them.
Right.
And that happens to me. And when it does happen, it's amazing. But so many things that I've written have come from those periods when I just said, I'm going to write something. I learned not to put pressure on myself to make that something good. And I just learned to write something. And that was the most important thing that helped me get through that time and stay creative, because I wouldn't, like, if I wrote something that was bad, I wouldn't feel bad about it. I just let it exist in the world and went on to the next thing. And some of those things I wrote turned out really good. And it was just like a nice exercise that I would do every morning. And because it was the first thing I did every morning, I barely ever missed it.
So you have 10 singles. So I want to clarify something. You have 10 singles out right now, right?
Yes.
What? So from what I've heard, there's because I've been listening to some of your songs and stuff. They all seem a lot like the EDM type and like DJ style. So what exactly do you write? Are you writing?
It's writing like the melodies
The
mostly,
melodies, okay.
but I also write lyrics. I don't write lyrics on all of my songs. Most of them, the lyrics are written by the singer.
Mhm.
But like for my most recent release, I wrote the lyrics entirely for that. And for a couple of releases for the future, I have lyrics written as well. And so when I say write, I really mean both the words and also the music itself, like the melodies and the chords and everything.
That's really cool. How would you describe, your music?
It's tough right now for me to figure out a good description because I feel like I'm at a turning point with my music where the first 9 songs that I released felt like they were mostly based off of other artists. Whereas the most recent one felt like it was like my own. Like it felt like it was a style that hadn't really been explored as much. And so I'll describe like that and what I want to do in the future. It's a lot of combining acoustic elements like acoustic drum sets and guitar, especially piano. I love piano with electronic elements. And because you can make so many interesting sounds through synthesizers and like vocal chops, and combining those with acoustic elements just gives the music a huge depth, but also makes the production really interesting. And so it's like a canvas that can be molded in so many different ways. But right now I'm focusing a lot on the combination of acoustic elements and with the electronic elements.
How do you find your own style? Like how do you create? Is it influenced by your past experiences?
I love that question because what I thought would help me find my style was absolutely not correct at all. And so at the beginning, I thought to find my style, I thought I'd be like thinking about a style and like, well, I want to do X, and then I would try to do X. Or I thought, well, I listened to a lot of punk rock in my life. Maybe I should just combine punk rock with like electronic music.
Right.
And every time that I tried to make a certain style, it just sounded terrible. And what I started doing was I would make a new song every week. I wouldn't finish it, but I would lay out everything in the song. And over time, with every iteration of making a new song, my style just kind of developed. And what I've realized is that the style comes from the thousands of decisions that I make throughout the writing process. And that's it. And so if anyone were to learn how to produce music and produce a certain amount of songs, they would eventually come to a style without really thinking about it that much.
Yeah.
And so that's how I found this style. I knew that I wanted to make songs about like adventure and nature, but I didn't know how it would sound. And it just kind of developed over time.
So it's over time with doing consistent efforts and, just producing work and, reflecting on the work that you've produced.
Exactly.
Your own style.
Reflecting on it was a big point that I missed actually. Thinking about like, what did I like about this last release that I made? And then I would try to use that in my next release while also bringing in new elements. So like if someone were to analyze my songs from start to finish, they'd find that like every song has elements from the subsequent release, but then it has new ones. And then maybe those will disappear by the next release, but then it'll keep something else from that previous song. And it's just, I don't know, that's just how it's been for me, I guess.
That's awesome. Prior to our podcast today, you also mentioned how, health and wellness, tea, conversation, nature and all of these things contribute to your creativity. So I really want to talk about that too.
Yes. And after I kind of give my spiel, I would love to hear your thoughts on this too, because this is like one of the most interesting things to me.
Absolutely.
But for me, and I think a lot of artists, there is this need to like fill the well of inspiration, and keeping the well full is the key to not getting writer's block for an extended period of time. And the way that I've been able to do that is one, like the most important way for me is just being healthy. So if I get a lot of sleep, if I eat healthy foods, and if I relax and de-stress by drinking tea, lighting a candle, talking with a friend, then I just feel the need to like celebrate that by creating music.
Wow.
And it's funny because like all of the saddest songs I've written are when I am in the best mood. And I've never written a good song while I felt sad or depressed or unmotivated or like sick or anything. It's all been from a place of health, which is it's just how my brain works, I guess. But I like basically if I don't get a good night's sleep or if I party it up for New
Right.
Year's or something, then the
Right.
next day I feel awful. I can't be creative. Just nothing comes out.
That actually kind of makes sense. I don't know. That actually kind of makes sense because I feel like when your body is healthy and your brain is like functioning, you feel good. Your body knows that you're treating it well, and naturally, I feel like that's the same for me too. Naturally, you just want to do things, and
Yeah.
when you do things, you obviously are going to be doing what you're passionate about and what you like.
Yeah. And I'm curious to know if it's similar for you, but whenever I feel healthy, I just feel more confident. Like I feel
Yeah.
like I can make it in a competitive industry like music, and I feel like what I'm putting out is worth it to people. Whereas when I'm not feeling healthy, I'm so self-critical.
That's absolutely true because I'm like, so for me, I've been really into health and fitness since I think it's 10th grade of high school, or since when high school started. That's when I was really
Good for you.
my fitness journey, and I've been pretty consistent over the years up until freshman year, and also
Yeah.
this past year. And habits started to change. Um, just the being environment in college obviously changes a lot of things. But now, since quarantine and now I'm back home, it's something that I've really realized the difference when you actually maintain a healthy body. And like, once you really, put care into your body and health, it makes a huge difference. Like your productivity and everything just goes up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I think we had a similar experience to each other because I focused a lot on fitness in high school because I was on the cross country team. So it just kind of happened. But then my first few years of college, I totally dropped off and I gained a lot of body fat.
Yeah.
And I felt terrible all the time. But I didn't realize how much better I felt when I was healthy until I got healthy again after going through like a downward spiral, if you will.
I think I'm in that process. Like I'm in that process of trying to regain my health
Right.
again. Yeah. Like I'm definitely have not gone out of it yet, but I'm starting to realize the difference.
Yeah. What are some things that you like to do to keep yourself healthy? Like your top few things that you love?
Working out for sure. For me, like when I work out, I love to have the feeling of after post workout, the sweat and everything. It just makes it was almost like kind of high, like, and also sense of clarity in your mind. So that's definitely number one. Drinking tea, obviously, having some tea by myself or with friends and family also helps because it helps with digestion. Yes, exactly.
Cheers.
Cheers. And one other thing which I'm really bad at but I really want to focus on getting better is quality sleep.
What are the biggest obstacles for you for that? Because sleep is that is like, if I had a health pyramid, that would be at the bottom for me. Like the most important, meaning at the bottom, like the base.
Oh, like the base, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I've always had different, like I've always been I've always been a night owl.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like I always thought that sleep was like, I didn't value it as much until I started noticing like the difference between how your body feels. And after pulling many all-nighters, at this point, like at sometimes when I just can't sleep, I just won't sleep at all for an entire night and then go on the next day and just like feels completely like crap. So the biggest obstacle for me, I think, is for sleep. I feel like my biggest obstacle of sleep is, I think, just not being able to log off at night and then having a downtime,
Me too. it's like it's hard to turn off the phone sometimes, or like the TV,
Or the computer, yeah.
or the computer. Oh, especially the computer. I mean, if I'm playing Minecraft or something up late, that's like I could do that for hours. But yeah, and the worst part about not getting sleep for me is if I don't get to sleep, everything else falls off. Like I won't eat healthy if I don't get enough sleep. And there's actually a scientific reason for that. Like when you don't get enough sleep, your body creates more the chemical that makes you hungry.
Right.
And so you generally reach for worse foods
Oh
than you
yeah.
would normally. But then,
Absolutely.
yes, then I don't eat well. And then I don't like do things that are like good practices, like meditation or drinking tea or hanging out with friends. It's like I just sit in my room on my phone all day. And so it's like I need that, or everything else just goes terribly. And then obviously then I can't be creative at all.
Right. So how would you say, what about now, like, you know, in your life when you, after that experience, and also now that you're more in a stable, I guess, setting, what are your like habits and ways that you keep, you know, healthy and also keeping that creativity going?
Since I got off the road, and especially since I moved into DC, I pretty much follow the same exact schedule every day. I have a Google Calendar for myself, and I have it up on one of my tabs always and just follow it. And so in the morning, well, first, so I go to bed at like 10:30 and wake up at 7:30. So it's 9 hours of sleep if I'm asleep the whole time. And that if I don't get more than 8, I'm a little bit groggy. And then people can get 7 and be totally fine. I'm just one of those people that needs extra hour, I guess.
Yeah.
Or extra 2 hours. But right when I wake up, I'll go outside, take a walk for 20, 30 minutes, and that just wakes me up. I get to see the sun, and that makes me feel like I'm part of the day.
Yeah.
And I also love walking in the cold. Like putting on 4 coats and just wandering outside it gives me time to think. And if I don't have time to just let my mind wander during the day, I can't sleep. It just, like if I'm doing something all day, like working all day,
yeah,
then by the time I go to bed, my mind is like, oh, time to think. And then it just won't let me fall asleep.
Oh,
So I start, yes,
sorry,
do tell.
that's
go ahead.
That's the thing, like what keeps me up a lot at night is my mind just can't stop wondering.
Yeah, that it happened to me really bad last year a lot, but then this summer, because I love working on music and trying to make this business work.
Yeah.
And so in the summer, I would spend all day like working. And even when I wasn't being productive, I would continue to stare at the screen and try to do stuff, even though it wasn't productive and wasn't good for me at all.
Yeah.
And then like my breaks would be like watching TV or doing something else that put dopamine into my brain. And so then I wouldn't let myself think throughout the day. And I realized that not getting silence would just destroy my sleep. And I made a YouTube video about this actually, how once I started giving myself scheduled time to just sit in silence, it fixed the problem almost completely. And that's part of why I hate the hustle culture and the like don't sleep until you're dead kind of deal with like working 18 hours a day. Like it's such bullshit. And like some of those hours could just be spent relaxing, and you will have better quality hours working the next day.
Yeah, I definitely see the same thing where like once you have some time during the day to just kind of wonder and just kind of quality time to really just think for yourself and not like idling time, you know, like you said, like, you know, just watching TV or whatever, like that's not really productive, because that's just, you're just kind of filling the time, and it's also occupying your thoughts because you're trying to focus on that too.
Exactly.
And I do agree that like having that time to wonder makes a huge difference in the way you think and how productive you are.
Yeah, 100%. And so that's why that's the first thing I do now in the mornings, is because it helps with all of that. Then after that, then I'll do something creative for like an hour, like play the piano, come up with melodies, or work on a song, and then I'll work out. Since I moved into DC, I haven't gone to the gym at all because the gym prices are so expensive, and the nearest Planet Fitness is pretty far away. So I haven't gone to the gym. So I've only been doing body weight and like cardio workouts, which have been good, and that's kept me active enough. But I'll do a lot of like sprint workouts outside, things that are like maybe 20 minutes worth of workout, so not long,
Yeah.
but something intense, so it gets my my heart rate way up,
Right.
and like enough to get me in like that high that you feel after you work out.
Yeah.
So I do that almost every day of the week, and then shower, and then I do like marketing, so like social media posts or responding to DMs and comments, that kind of thing. And then I do part of what brings in some money for the business is playlist promotion. So I run a couple of playlists on Spotify that get a lot of listeners, and so people pay me to review their music to potentially put that in the playlist. And so I'll do that for 45 minutes, answer emails, then I'll have lunch with my wife. We cook almost the same thing every day. It's some mixture of veggies, some eggs, and sometimes like sausage or usually. So part of my diet is I don't eat a lot of carbs. I don't do like necessarily keto. I used to, but I just find when I have less carbs, I just feel I have a lot
Energy.
Yes, a much more stable energy throughout the day.
Yeah.
But I don't like if it's like healthy carbs, I'll for sure eat that, like sweet potatoes and almonds, that kind of stuff. And then after that, I pretty much work on music for like the next 4 hours. Then if I'm feeling tired, and I've learned to listen to myself a lot better. If I'm feeling tired and I'm not getting anywhere, I'll just stop for the day. I'll play Call of Duty with my friends, get a little social time in,
Right.
or just do something else, like take my cat for a walk. We go on walks. That's pretty much how my day works.
Wow. It seems very structured, and you got like a schedule for your day-to-day activities.
Yes, the schedule, and I didn't even start scheduling until late in college, maybe my senior year. And once I started scheduling, well, it changed my life.
That's something I need to learn, man.
Hey, well, you're at about the time when I learned it, so this is your year.
Yeah. Wow. What about like going back to your experiences on the road? How would you say that experience, some of the things that you've experienced through that time on the road that really made big changes in terms of their perspective and mindset?
The most important thing that changed was the realization that if I needed something, I had to make that thing happen. Like if I'm feeling a creative drought, or if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I need to clear my schedule. I need to give myself time to rest and see people that I love. And before that, I would tend to use exhaustion and being overworked as an excuse not to do things that I should be doing. But through that experience, it really pushed me to the limit of knowing that if I don't take ownership of how I feel and the things that I do, then I'm just going to be miserable all of the time. And I don't want to be miserable all of the time.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest shift that happened. And also even just like skills that I learned while I was on the road, like learning how to consult and learning sales has been incredibly beneficial, because I don't feel like that's something that a lot of people in music have, but it's such an important skill, because if you can't effectively explain to someone why something is a good idea, like how do you move forward with a career that is completely based around like you, like one person, not a company, or not you at a company. Like you have to be able to sell yourself. And that's not something creative people like to do. Right. I just realized how many things I needed to be better at as a creative person, in order to not starve on the streets because I'm trying to do art.
Yeah, because art is definitely one of those things that it seems like you either make it or you don't. It's like there's definitely a lot of like talented artists out there that don't get the recognition that they might be deserving.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think it's great that you're like building yourself as a whole package where you're not just art, but you also have many of like the sales side, the communications, marketing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I think people can learn that stuff, people who are creative can learn that stuff. And I think a lot of people would benefit a lot from it. So
Do you think it's essential now, for a lot of with the rise of individuals and influencers, that it's definitely essential for them to kind of not just, if they're, for example, if their main domain is like art, it's definitely more essential for them to now kind of also learn more about the business side of things and the marketing side, because they have to do it themselves.
yes. And I think it's not one of those things where like artists back in the day didn't have to do that thing.
Right.
It's artists nowadays still don't have to, but there's a lot of getting lucky that it needs to happen. Like you have to get lucky in a lot of different ways to like have a music career. But there are things you can do that will like increase the chances that you're going to get lucky by a lot. And I see a lot of people who are making a living off of their songs on Spotify, and they don't do any of the other stuff, and that's great.
Right.
Like that for a lot of people, that's the dream, and it works really well. But if you want to lay a groundwork for like not the promise that you will succeed, but just to give yourself a really good chance, doing the business stuff it's just so helpful. Knowing how to connect with people on Instagram is so helpful. And a lot of artists will see that as a chore and as like, well, I don't want to learn how to like sell myself. Like my art should sell itself. And yes, it can. But part of what makes art so interesting is understanding and knowing the artist behind it. And for someone like, imagine if one of my listeners goes to my Spotify, loves my song and checks my bio, but my bio is empty because I'm a lazy artist that doesn't want to make a bio, which so often I check someone's bio excitedly to learn about them and nothing, or just like one sentence of like, I like eating plums and I don't know, hanging out with my friends. It's like, that's not a bio. I didn't connect with you. But if someone has similar beliefs about the world that I do, and they check my bio and see that, then they're like, whoa, all of a sudden I'm drawn into the music even more because the mind that's creating the music is similar to my mind. And that's just another way to make your art so much more influential. And so if artists looked at it through that lens as opposed to marketing, then I think they would be a lot happier doing it.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Like, because I'm thinking like, even with like podcasts, for example, and also with a lot of people posting music, because now anyone, like literally anyone can start their own thing and start publishing on Spotify and Apple and all of that. We're pretty much presented with like overload and the overwhelming amount of users and content. So I'm really curious, like how would you go about distinguish yourself from the other millions of people doing the same thing that you're doing?
The number one way is just doing it for a longer period of time. Like
Consistency.
There are so many really good ideas that people start and then just stop. And there was one podcast I was on maybe a month ago now that they stopped doing that podcast. And it was so disappointing for me because I liked the podcast and I knew other people would too, but they didn't get the kind of feedback they were hoping for at the beginning. And because of that, they stopped. And if I had done that, like my first year and a half making music, like I was happy if I got like one stream in a day, like so happy. And I think my first year I averaged 3 streams every day. Wow. And then now I'm getting 1,500 streams every day.
Big jump.
But I continued to like make the music and put it out, even though nothing felt like it was changing. Yeah. So that's the first thing. But the other thing is, it's like, so there's the sound of my music, and that comes from making a lot of songs. There's the visuals, and for me as an artist, the most important thing that I can do to complement my music is to hire another artist to make a visual. So like the album artwork, all of the animated ones, I paid for. I paid someone who I found through Instagram who she and I now basically do all of the artwork. Or like we collaborate for all of my songs that use animated artwork because she does it. And I wanted to have really strong visuals. And I like the idea of wrapping lights around things because it's like this mystical adventure kind of feeling.
Right.
And it was distinct. And I knew if I put that on all of my song covers, people would see the song cover and know, oh, that's Alex's music.
Right.
And so I that's one of the ways. And then the final way, and this is like an epidemic in EDM. Like artists just don't talk to their fans and they don't respond to comments and they don't like their comments or they don't respond to DMs. And I don't necessarily think it's because they're selfish or self-absorbed, which some of them might be, but it's just, why don't you want to connect with the people that love your music? Like those might be the most interesting people you could ever connect with.
True.
Because they're drawn to the thing that you create. And so I put time in my calendar to talk to every single person that listens to my music. And every time I get a follow on Instagram, I send them a message thanking them for following me. And then I start a conversation like, who's your favorite artist? What are your favorite genres of EDM? And that has been the most rewarding thing. And I wish more artists did that because they would see such an improvement in
it's that engagement.
Exactly. Like people want others to engage with them, but why don't you go engage with them first and then they will engage back?
Yeah.
Just because that's how you can promise engagement on your page, is by engaging with other people.
Wow. And you obviously have seen a good amount of growth since you started last year, right? Or since you really started dedicating your time to it.
Yes, that like Instagram, I sat at like 200 followers for a year. And then when I started making conversation with people, like I literally would keep my little notepad and I would make a tally every time I talked to someone new. And I would do it 40 times every single day. And that brought my Instagram following to where it's right under 2,000 people now.
Right.
And then my song streams, like all of 2019, I had a total of 950 streams. And now I get twice that amount every single day. And that keeps growing. Like every month is like an increase by 50%. And that's part of what you said, where it's like either you're at the bottom or you're at the top. And moving like the first like year and a half or 2 years or 3 or 4 years even, it's just like nothing happens. And then once things start happening, more things start happening. Like the more you succeed, the quicker more success comes.
It's that momentum.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's
it's so
crazy.
It feels like it's like, and it's at a point now where I'm obviously still tiny compared to most artists, but it's bigger than I ever imagined it could be for me. And that's, it's amazing.
What's your vision? You know, what's your goal with all of this? You know, what's
I want to collaborate with Taylor Swift so bad. I want, like, I know that there will never be a point where I'm like happy with wherever I've ended up. And this is actually what my most recent song is about. It's about how if you don't love the process, then you'll just be miserable forever because there is no happiness in a destination.
Right.
And so my ideal destination would just be to never stop growing. And so like I would love to play a giant festival like Tomorrowland. I would love to win a Grammy one day and all of that, but none of that needs to happen. Like that's my vision, but it's not what I need.
That's not your focus.
Yeah. That's like what I'm setting the arrow towards.
Right.
But I don't, like, I'm happy right now and I'm fulfilled right now. So
So it's awesome to hear that you're really happy with the process. Because I think so too. Like, you know, it's really the process that makes everything, that makes the journey the journey. That's what makes it very interesting. Like,
yeah. And for you, like, if you hated talking to new people and drinking tea, you'd be in the wrong field, man.
Yeah.
But if you like it, which it certainly seems like you do, then you will do it because that's what you like.
Yeah.
Not because you have just like this idealized, like if you wanted to be the next Joe Rogan, which you might, and that's totally awesome that you would, but like if someone was like, I want to be at that level, but I don't actually like what I'm doing, like that wouldn't work.
Yeah, it wouldn't work. Yeah. I mean, for me, like I also haven't really like it's funny you brought it up because for me, I also haven't thought I mean, I have thought a lot. I've been reflecting on, where I really want to take this with, with the podcast, with everything. Like, honestly, like I'm not too sure either. Like,
Mhm.
I don't want to. I also don't want to quit it because it's something that I started over the summer, and obviously, I love. One of the reasons I love talking to people, but I also love introducing people to tea culture, and that's
Mhm.
like my ultimate vision is through these conversations and with different people to connect with people through diverse mindsets over tea and to highlight that uh, tea has this presence that has it's like having a coffee or having a meal
Yeah.
or going to a bar. It's the same thing, like, but why isn't that culture present, and it's about cultivating that kind of that culture.
And it's cool that you have that, like that, if that's the reason why you're doing this, like that's a very sustainable thing to aim for. Like that's like something from your heart
Right.
that you want like that will improve people's lives if you do that. And so it's not like a chasing fame or anything. It's like you're doing it for the right reason, and that makes the process so enjoyable.
Yeah, it's like I love just no matter if it's one person new that tells me, like, my friends. I'm trying to get my friends into. I've been getting a lot of my friends into tea, and like also just like seeing people's reactions when even just one person like saying that this tea is so good, or something like that. It's
Or just seeing how cool the tea looks when you're
Yeah.
presented with a new like
Right.
that's beautiful. Ah,
Yeah, so
I am so inspired to get that now.
mhm. It's got a taste that's it's like very subtle aromas and flavors, and almost like, because I'm not sure, like, how would you describe green tea from your taste and palate?
It tastes very like earthy to me. Like
Earthy.
it almost like tastes like it could be dirt, but not like dirt in a bad way. It's like well, so I love putting turmeric in my green tea, and I feel like the taste of turmeric and green tea are similar in a way. Like they complement each other very well. And so for me, green tea is like it's earthy. I don't get that much fruity um, or like sweetness out of it. It tastes bitter to me.
So
But I
do you
love
like that? Do you like that bitterness with that astringency?
I do, because I do really like coffee as well because of the taste and the bitterness. And so green tea is like it gives me that, but it's more fresh.
Mm.
And it feels lighter, and it doesn't give me like a surge of like cortisone or stress. Cortisol. I can't remember what the right word is. But yeah. But how is it for you?
What do you mean in terms of
Like the taste for
the
green
taste?
tea and yeah.
To be honest, I actually don't drink green tea very often. It's not my go-to tea.
Okay.
But for me, green tea, I've had very bitter green teas that I just
Mhm.
absolutely hate it. Maybe because I overbrewed it, oversteeped it, and it became out wrong. But I also have, like, for example, this type of green tea. It's not sweet, but it's also not too bitter. It's got like a very soft feeling to it.
Right.
But my favorite is definitely Shin. I'm not sure. Have you heard of pu'ers?
I have not. I would love to learn more about it though. So
Okay.
please
Maybe I'll send you
unleash your
some.
knowledge.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
You know that all the tea comes from the same plant, right?
Yes, that blew my mind when I learned that.
Yeah, that also blew my mind too when I first learned it. And so, but they also it comes with this plant Camellia sinensis, and they have different cultivars. But there's two main types. You have the sinensis cultivar, which is the more common one that you see that produces that the tea produces, like with the green tea, black tea. That's the most common one. And you have Asamaka, which is only produced in the southwest region of China. And so pu'ers is a type of tea that is from that cultivar.
Okay.
So it can only be produced in that region in the southwest. And usually their leaves are a lot bigger.
Mhm.
And you have like usually it's like a good quality sign is like one bud and two leaf, and its taste is also some of it is quite similar to green tea in terms of stringency, but I also have like fermented ones where it's like almost like black coffee.
I've never tried that before. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've only really had like the black and the green teas. I haven't had many of the less known in the Western world ones. And then I also didn't realize for the longest time that like herbal tea wasn't actual tea.
Yeah, herbal tea is not as
that blew my mind.
yeah. So herbal tea, so we call that tea sands. Tea sands. So tea, like true tea or real tea, has to be from the plant, the tea plant, which is Cumulus sinensis, and everything else that's not from it is like tea sands.
Do you drink that as well, or do you just strictly drink tea?
I drink anything, but I definitely prefer true tea over tea sands because not because I kind of discriminate against because it's like this lack of quality or whatever. It's more because of I feel like with tea, especially like some other like pu'ers, for example, they give you like this feeling. There's almost like chi. I'm not sure if you heard of that.
Yes.
You do yoga, right? So that's
I
actually,
do some, yes.
Yeah. How do you describe chi in yoga?
I don't. I have a very like narrow idea of it just being like the energy that I feel, and if I'm doing yoga, then I just become aware of it. Like I feel it in different parts of me, like whether that's just like a tickling sensation that something's like touching your leg, or like strain in your muscle while you're doing it. It's just focusing on it. It's like you just feel everything so much more.
It's very similar with chachi, which is also a very common term a lot of people describe good tea with, but it's also a very mystical concept because from everyone that I've talked to, that term chachi is like everyone has a different experience and concept with it. But it's the same thing with in yoga and like all the other Eastern philosophies. It's all connected.
That's so interesting. And so, are there any like true teas that are good to have like before bed that don't have caffeine in them or anything, or something that's best for calming? I guess because I've always had herbal tea before going to bed because I know there's no caffeine.
There's no caffeine. That's the thing. Like I don't actually think like if you get the loose leaf and true teas that's produced, I don't think they take out the caffeine.
Right.
Yeah. So that's why like so going back to like sleep problems, that was actually one of the things that really made my sleep schedule like just really bad. Was like I would just have tea like any time of the day, like it'd be 12 a.m. midnight, and I'd be like, okay, let's brew some tea, and then I'll drink until like 3 a.m. in the morning, and then like all of a sudden I come out, I finish drinking my tea, I'm like, man, I'm so alert and awake.
Yep, that'll do it. What's your schedule for drinking it now? Do you have specific times that you like to?
Well, I'll drink from the time I wake up all the way. I try to limit my drinking before 6 p.m.
Wow. So how many glasses or cups of tea do you think you have throughout the day?
Cups. I don't know by actual cups, but like because like usually I'm not sure if you're familiar with like gongfu tea, where you have your little teapot, right, and then you pour the water into the teacup, and then you have the infusions, and so it's not really like a mug or like a cup where you just put the tea bag in and then that's like one cup. It's more like how many infusions that the tea has. So also with like
that's so cool.
A lot of like true tea, like like pu'ers, for example, they can last up to like at least 10 steepings in the teapot. Yeah, and so usually like a full tea session with like maybe if you're doing a full tasting, it will usually last at least like an hour. And so you'll be drinking it, and you can see like the process from the first brew all the way to the fourth brew, and then the seventh brew. There's like differences.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's so intriguing. I knew that I could do like for the flowering tea that I could use that multiple times and it would like close back up. But I don't think I've ever done loose leaf tea like in that sense. Like if I steep it in my mug
Yeah.
and then like get rid of all of the leaves when I'm done. But I need to reuse that.
Yeah. For some people that are like new to it, I can understand that they don't want to spend all the money and then just to brew tea. But then if you can taste the tea first and see its process, I'm sure you'll get into it.
Yeah, I was wrapped into it so fast. A girlfriend of mine in high school gave me a tea set, but it was really simple. It was just like you would steep it in the mug, and it would just have this like thin container that I'd put the loose leaf in, steep it, and then take the container out. But once I had that, I was like, oh, I need to upgrade, and so that's when I got like the bigger steeper.
Yeah.
And a bunch of different teas, and yeah.
Sweet. So before we started recording, we were talking about how you're actually a computer science major, right?
Yes.
So how did you go from computer science to doing EDM stuff and music?
So I love computers. I was always like, I don't know if you ever did this or heard about it, but like back when iPhones were really new and iPod touches were new, you could jailbreak it, you basically hack into the software and like edit all this stuff. And so I did that, and I would like put in these different files that would let me cheat on like online games. And I think about it now it's like kind of a dick move, but like it was so cool. Like I could meddle with the inner workings of this. And so from there I like started messing around with my computer, and I made a game when I was in 8th grade called Mr. Stanley. And I like did all the artwork for it, and I put it on a CD, and it was like this computer game. It was so terrible. I actually still have the CD, and I need to get a CD connector for my computer because I want to play it. But I did that, and then in college, I didn't know what I wanted to do my first year, but I was in the engineering school because I had to declare what college I would be in.
Right.
And so it was the College of Engineering, and I was fascinated by the concept of programming. And over the summer after my freshman year, I recreated Flappy Bird on the computer, but with my face instead of the bird. And I called it Flappy Al after Alex. And I was like, this is so fun. If I enjoyed this, maybe I should take a computer science class. So I took a class over the summer, loved it. And then the rest was history. I just loved being able to create something like on the computer. And that is what led me back to music, because I realized, yes, I love the creative aspect of coding, but you can't really be as creative with that in a normal work environment when you're programming. Right. And if I were to program, I would want to like build games. And so my senior year, I was working on a coding project, and then I just was randomly working on a music project. And I realized that I spent the entire winter break focusing on how to do this music project. And I would like take notes, and I would study it like I wouldn't do for any other subject. And I was like, shoot, I will never be a great programmer because I'm not dedicated enough to spend all this time doing it. But look at how much time I was willing to spend on music. If I spend this kind of time learning, then eventually I'll have to make it somewhere. Like there's no way. Right. So that transitioned me to the music production, because the production itself is so technical. Like the engineering part of like the sound, it's so complex, and I never realized how complex it was. And so computer science just helped me to think about things in terms of algorithms. And so now I do that with my music. It's like I have systems set up when I'm doing my production to make things easier or more interesting.
That's really cool.
But computer science, I do love programming. I will continue to do programming for fun on the side. So it's fun. It's like music professionally and programming on the side. It's usually the reverse.
Yeah. Wow. So you found your passion from a school project when you realized like you were able to dedicate so much time just on this music assignment. And then now you're combining the two, from bringing that programming background and knowledge to your audio engineering skills.
Exactly. And the same goes for like marketing. I use how I think in computer science for how I think in marketing. Like I run Facebook ads, and Facebook ads are super complicated.
Right.
And if I didn't take computer science, I wouldn't understand what goes into like how the Facebook ads work and what they need to work well. And so that kind of mindset has helped me with marketing so much.
What do you think computer science has taught you the most?
It has taught me, oh my gosh, the most important thing. It's hard because there's a couple of things that it's taught me a lot of. Try a lot of different things, because sometimes things will break for no reason or for no apparent reason, and you have to try different solutions. And the other one is, like, if I were writing a paper for a class, I could bullshit my way through a paper.
Yeah.
Or I could do it. There'd be no way for me to get a 0 on the paper unless I didn't turn it in.
Right.
With a computer science project, if it doesn't work, I get a 0, and I can spend 30 hours on it and get a 0. Whereas if I spent 30 hours on a paper or a book, like reading something or studying, I could get somewhere.
Yeah.
And so the computer science taught me, like, it's all or nothing. Like, it has to work. If it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. And that is, like, that's how I think of the Facebook ads. Like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter that I'm running them. But I know that I can find a new solution. Or if there's, like, all of these different levels, like, someone has to see the ad, like it, click on it, then click on the landing page, then listen to the song, then save the song. And I can track all the data. And if one of those steps isn't, like, in place correctly, then it'll just break at that point. And so it's almost like debugging a program. I'm going and seeing my marketing process, seeing where it fails, and then fixing it at that point.
I feel like it's that it kind of hones a really logical mindset and to think really logically and step by step, which is I feel like which is something that people who are pursuing creatives, it's that really need to pick up too.
Yes, it's something that I don't think that creative people can't learn that kind of skill. I think it's something that everyone can improve on. And some people are better than others, like mathematicians and people who are amazing programmers. Obviously, I could never learn the things that they do, but just having a basic understanding of it's so beneficial.
Yeah. Do you think that, like, you know, as like the problem with like have you experienced, or like, do you know about, like, the problem like with pursuing creatives where you just, it's almost like there's like a no sense of direction because you lack that logical aspect, where you just kind of like, you're always just trying to find the flow instead of trying to set it up yourself?
Yes, that's huge. And that goes back to, this actually ties right back into the first thing we talked about, where I talked about how I scheduled in creative time. Something as simple as that can give creative people so much more direction. It's not a diss on creativity or a spitting in the face of creativity. It amplifies it so much. And some of the greatest creatives, like Seinfeld, they schedule time to be creative. And that starting there can just give so much sense of direction and logic, which can be hard to do in a creative field because creativity defies logic.
It's a dilemma. Like,
it is. It's tough.
It's really tough because for me, like, I view tea, this tea as an art.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that it extends way beyond just a cup of tea, just a beverage. It's like the culture behind it, the history that's involved with it, and the whole process from through my tea journey, I've actually recently picked up ceramics making.
That's awesome. Yes. Yeah. That's so cool.
Like, and
what inspired you?
So when you have a tea set, right, you have like the little tea cups, the teapots, the tea tray, and all of the accessories, not really accessories, but they're like utensils that you use to brew tea. And all of these things are handmade, and they have different designs, different colors, different ways, different shapes, right? Different ways to make them. And at the root of it, it's all ceramics and pottery making. Like, they're made out of clay, obviously different types of clays or whatever. But and that got me really curious, and because having knowledge on being able to differentiate the different types of tea, and that side of knowledge, that's one thing. Tasting that's one thing, and then the stuff that you use to drink tea, and the art behind making that, and the setting, the atmosphere you set yourself to drink tea in, it's a whole different world in itself. And I
Mhm.
view this thing collectively as an art.
That makes so much sense. I mean, it's like that's an entire lifestyle centered around this art, and there's so many different things to think about within that art, and so many different like perspectives within the art. That's so cool. I hadn't really thought of it in that way at all,
Right.
but it makes perfect sense.
You can really do anything that you set your mind to, and if you have the willingness to you have the desire and the interest for it, you
Mhm.
can learn it.
Yeah, and that's the coolest thing about art. I think it's not necessarily an innate talent, but it's an innate desire to do it. And
Right.
some people don't have that desire. Some people have it strong. It's like a whole spectrum. But if you have the desire, you can learn to make it happen. Like
Yeah.
you can learn to do your ceramic making and learn to make tea as an essential part of your lifestyle, which is something that you can just benefit. You can benefit so much from.
You have a really strong mindset and have a really clear sense of direction of where you're doing what you're doing, and I think that's absolutely amazing. And I can definitely see you growing a lot more in the future, in the coming years.
I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, man, I definitely hope that you do.
And I hope you do as well. And I hope that we can drink a lot more tea together in the future.
Dude, I'm always down. I'm down. I'm always down for tea. And if I'm back in, whenever I get back to Wake, we can have some tea session.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're not too far apart, so we'll do that.
Yeah. Well, Alex, man, it's been great.
It has been great.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the tea. I wish I could have had it with you and tried some of yours, but we'll save that for another time.
Oh, we will. And I would definitely link out, all of your socials. Go check out Alex's music and YouTube, and it's on Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere. Thank you so much, Alex, and
Yep,
have a
absolutely.
great day.
You as well, man. Take care.
Take care. Peace.